What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to be talking about changing out a pump head seal. If you hit your switch and you hear the motor spinning but you don't see the car lifting, you got one of two problems. Either you've got a few different options of problems, but one of the possible problems is that your fluid is low. Obviously, first thing to check is the simplest thing. Make sure that you have fluid in your tank. Open your fill plug, make sure that the fluid is to the top, and make sure that isn't the issue. The second thing you want to try and figure out is if it's free spinning, then that means that you have possibly a broken pump head stem. What I mean by that is you hit the switch and you just hear it go zzz, and it doesn't stop on its own. So it's just free spinning and going. Now if you hit the switch and it goes zzz and stops rather quickly, it means there's still a little bit of resistance on there, which is probably a pump head seal. So it's not actually lifting the car, but when you hit the switch, you'll hear the motor go zzz, just long enough for it to not lift the car, basically. So your motor is still spinning, your pump head is just, the seal is probably bad, and that's what's causing it. So that's what I'm going to be going over today is what to do, how to fix it. It's a cheap fix, but it is a fix that requires a lot of labor. So that's what we're going to start with. So to start, we're going to disconnect the ground, and then you're going to start taking apart and dismantling your setup to pull the pump out. Now I'm dumbing this down to the simplest form. I know a lot of people actually know a lot about this stuff and can easily do this, but I want to dumb it down so that the simplest person can come in here and do this, because not everybody knows how to do this. So first you'll disconnect your quick disconnect, your ground, and then you will start by taking off the post on your motor. So the power going to your motor, you'll need two, what was it, 1/2 inch? Or was it 3/8? I think it's 1/2 inch. You'll need two 1/2 inch wrenches. One, you'll hold the one that is closest to the motor. The second is to actually turn the nut that is on the motor. You want to make sure that you keep the one closest to the motor still, because if it starts to turn, it messes stuff up on the inside of the motor. It can make it come disconnected basically, or have a bad connection on the inside. So make sure that that's held still. All right, so here's what I mean. You want to hold this one still, and then you want to twist this one off. Next, you'll have your dumps, something possibly like this, to where you will first unscrew this this nut right here, and then once this is undone, this will just slide off, and then you just set it in the trunk pan. And next, this is where it gets messy. You will disconnect the hoses leading to the front or the back. You'll know what hoses I'm talking about. They actually go to the cylinders. You'll want to loosen those up, and depending on which hoses you have, it's probably 3/4 or something like that wrench. And then you're going to disconnect those. Make sure that you have something underneath to catch the fluid, and once you've caught the fluid, then it's time to move those hoses out of the way, and now you can actually disconnect the pump from your mount. Normally it's a 9/16 bolt on the underside. It may be any number of different types. It could be an Allen, it could be any number of different things, so you'll have to figure that out, but that is going to be up underneath where the frame, where the mount is. All right, so now that you got this far, you're going to take your tank rods out, which these are either 3/8 or 10 millimeter. You'll want to take both of those out. Just take the tank rods completely out, and you're left with the tank looking like this. Now we always set it up on its back just like this, and what's going to happen is from here you're going to need to break the seal up underneath here, and you gently put a flathead up underneath here and just try to gently pry it apart and not bend everything. And there's also a seal under here, so try not to gouge that as well. And you'll want to pull it apart gently. It's helpful if you've got two people to do so. All right, so now that the seal has been broken, you just pick it up, let it drip a little bit, and just be ready, because it's going to make a mess. So now we're going to put the mount bolts in the vise in order to make things easier. So just like that, and tighten it down to hold it still. Now then we're going to start going to town on the pump head bolts right here, and go from there. now that you've gotten this far, so these bolts generally are 1/2 inch. You're gonna wanna start taking them out one by one. Now a good rule of thumb to practice, whenever you take things out like this, like he is doing right now, he is wiping out the tank to get any debris and sediment and stuff like that. Well, there's not a whole lot because he keeps his stuff pretty clean, but as you can see, there was a little bit on there. So he takes it out, and it's kind of like an oil change. He goes in there and wipes it all out real good. Well, anyway, so you're gonna start taking these out. Now, every pump head can be a little bit different, especially if you've got some older pump heads. This one is one of these cheap China ones that they started putting in when we were having problems getting Marzocchi pump heads. So that's what this garbage one is right now. Now I'm gonna show you how to open this up so you can see the seals, but these are the numbers that you want to know, and just take a picture of these if you're not planning to replace your pump head and all you're doing is replacing the seal. Now also, one thing that I should note is that if you open up your tank and you see one of these kinds of pump heads, it is the cheaper ones. Now, a lot of times what we're seeing right now is not that it just blows the seal, it'll actually break and crack the entire thing up here, or it'll crack different things, or the stem will be completely broke. So, you know, another thing to watch out for. So if you see that, well, just go ahead and bank on having to replace the entire pump head. For what my 2 cents is worth, the Marzocchis are the best ones. So, all right, so now that I've gotten this far, all you're doing is taking these loose right here. If you've got these that are not connecting it directly to the block, all these are is to hold the pump head together so it doesn't come apart and the seals don't come undone. So now this is already undone, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take these out, set them to the side, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wrap the pump head with a cloth of some kind, and then I'm also going to grab some channel locks, vice grips, whatever you wanna use, to grab onto it and twist it back and forth, because the shaft seal is in between here that's connecting it, and it's holding it in right now. So it's that much of a hold. All right, so what he's doing, he's done grabbed onto it and he's twisting it. See how it's moving? And you'll just kind of jiggle it backwards, like pulling away from, and eventually it'll just pop. There it goes. All right, so as you can see, the shaft seal, which is that dude right there, has come off. All right, so that's what he's got. All right, so that right there, it's always a good rule of thumb to replace these if you get this far and you notice that, especially if you see sparks in your motor or fluid in your motor itself. A lot of times what can happen is fluid goes through here and gets into your motor and then starts gumming up and slows it down, and eventually you'll have to replace the motor. So this is your shaft seal right here. This is what would need to be replaced. All right, if you are pulling this out, it comes out the same way. You want to take you some pliers of some kind, and you want to grab it gently right here without grabbing or without scratching your block or anything, and then you will go back and forth until you pull it off. Gently, my ass. Oh my God. Sometimes it needs a little convincing. Good thing we have a new one. All right, so we are not actually changing the seals on this. I'm showing you this because we're actually changing from a garbage China pump head to a Marzocchi number 9 pump head. Anyway, just showing you what to do. Once you reach this far, you'll take the 2 bolts out that were right here, and then what happens is this comes apart. Okay, now be careful about this because you want to make sure that it goes back together the same way that it came apart. So make sure that when you gently pull this off, you'll see the seals that are in here as well, and you'll see the seals that are in here. Okay, now the easiest way that I have found to make sure that you get the right seals is to take a picture of the actual pump head and the numbers that are on it. Take a picture of that. Also, open it up, take pictures of what you got here, which actually, if you look close right here, you'll actually notice that this pump head was bad because pieces of the actual part here have broken off. So the seals, it wouldn't matter how many seals I replaced on this, it's bad. So as you can see, that's, you know, an example of what might happen. Anyway, so you take a picture of everything here and take a picture of everything here and send it over to Rudy at Primo Seals. He will know what you need. He generally has just about every seal you can imagine. We even have his sticker on the wall because we use him so much and we order so much from him. So you will send the pictures to him, and then he'll let you know what it is, and he'll get it shipped out to you pretty quick. And all it is, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You literally open it up. You know, you'll be able to see if there's a problem with the seal here. You pull that seal out, you'll pull these seals out, and literally what he sends you, just put it in there and replace it. It's that simple. It's plug and play, and it'll come in a bag, something like this. You'll also have one of these, this small one, that goes probably right here, okay? You'll want to make sure that you replace that. So it's literally replace one, the bad ones, with the good ones. That's it. Okay, so if you are putting in a new pump head, a lot of times they come with these little caps and shit, so make sure you take them out. They put a little bit of fluid in there to keep it lubed and whatnot, and you just want to make sure that you get them out. Alright, so now you want to take a little bit of fluid, run it around the actual seal. If you're doing blow proofs, now would be the time to go ahead and do it. This is for a rear pump. It's not exactly, doesn't have to be done. So the key is actually still in there. The key that connects the pump, the shaft to the actual motor, it's still in there. And we did that on purpose because I was too lazy to take the motor off. So you can do right there. And now you'll want to basically line the holes up. You're not actually pushing the shaft, or excuse me, the pump head onto it, because it normally it won't just slide into place. You want to get it to where it's going to go into place, but not completely go into place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the bolts back in it. And when we go to tighten it down, first thing is when it goes to be tightened all the way down, you want 27 foot-pounds of torque to put these down. But the second thing is, how I do it is I want to make sure that it is even when it pulls itself to the pump head and puts the seal in there. So what I'll do is I'll wait until these are hand snug, and then I'll go half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, or half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, you know, in that kind of way. Now this, I'll probably just do a half turn on these two and just slowly pull it together evenly so that the shaft seal doesn't get damaged when it gets pulled in. So these get snug, and you go ahead and put your other ones in. Now if you don't have a torque wrench, before I had a torque wrench, honestly what I would do is I would snug these down, but you don't want them so tight that it creates it to where the pump head won't turn correctly. Now don't get me wrong, you should do these the way that they are supposed to be done, which is at 27 pounds of foot torque. With that said, not everybody has one. So when I say snug, what I mean is I grab the wrench by about here and I just tighten it down, you know, snug, okay? That is not the correct way of doing it, but it is a way of doing it if you don't have one. So, like I said, half turn, just pull it to it. All right, so now everything is nice and snug at 27 foot-pounds of torque. If you want to, and you have the extra bolts that go from right here. You can actually remove these, which on all of our front pumps, that's what we always do, is replace these with these, because most of your blocks now have the holes already drilled, so you can bolt it to it. Now, you don't have to, you can do it just the way that this is, especially for rear pumps. It doesn't matter too much, but for front pumps that are going to be pushing a lot of power, especially, you'll want to, you know, go ahead and make sure that everything's nice and tight. So now that we got it where we are right now, all it is a matter of literally putting it all back together the same way. We're going to take this off, put it on the tank, put the tank rods in, tighten it down, and then literally go put it right back in the car. Now, before you put your tank on, you want to examine the seal. You want to feel around it and see if any of it feels broken or scratched, or, you know, anything around it. Now, also you want to get some hydraulic fluid or whatever you're using, and go ahead and wipe some around the seal again, so that when you go to put your tank back on, it's not that difficult. Now, he's got his all ready to go pretty much, so go ahead and throw that thing back on there. Just go and push it into place. You line up the holes and just squeeze with your hand, and there it is, it's back on. Now, all we're doing is putting the tank rods and the backing plate back on. You want it snug. You do not want to over tighten it, because it will pull on your backing plate and bend it. Also, when you get done and you have the pump back in your car and you fill it back up with fluid, you want to make sure that you fill it all the way to the rim, because there's going to be voids and air in the lines from the pump coming out and the hoses being disconnected. So go ahead and fill it all the way up with whatever it is that you use for hydraulic fluid. Personally, we use Rudy's fluid. He has a nice little mixture that I like to use on a street car. You can use, if you can't wait, you can go and buy standard hydraulic fluid or non-detergent motor oil. Non-detergent motor oil is a little thicker, especially in colder climates. It can slow down the movement. It is good protection, but it does slow it down. Rudy's is nice and thin, it moves quickly. You can also use, and I don't want to say this out loud, but you can use transmission fluid, but it does eat up the seals. It is thinner. I know that's a lot of times I hear people in Cali always try to use transmission fluid, but it does eat up seals, so you got to be careful using that. It will eat them up. But it is thinner, it moves quicker. When you hit the switch, it hits harder. It's a little bit quicker, but I don't use it because we have street cars, and I don't like repairing things every 5 minutes. So
yeah, you do.
No, I don't. Now, one more thing to add: the backing plate is literally just to keep this tank pushed up against the block and keep that seal good. It does not need to be tightened down like Hercules. It just needs to be snug. That is it. So we are replacing these pump heads because we have a show to go to this weekend, which is those dudes in Ohio. It is on June 25th or 6th. It's this Saturday, 2022. He wanted to go ahead and fix these because the current pump heads that are in there, those China ones, even though they do work, but they don't perform very well. When it goes to 3-wheel, it takes a lot to push them over, because they whine, and I think there's fluid blow-bying in the pump head. Even though the seals are good, I think that it's still blowing by, which is one of the reasons why it takes so much for them to flip over. But anyway, hopefully you found this informative. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share these videos. I keep making these videos to make sure that you guys can keep going. I dumb these down as much as humanly possible to make it so that anyone can do these repairs. A lot of times people will get stuck on certain repairs that are super easy to do, but they just don't know how to do it. So that's why, I continue to make these videos, and every time that someone throws a different problem at me and I don't have a video, I try to make a video for you guys. So make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And again, I appreciate you watching.